Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Gold podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us today. Well, we have another great company interview for you today. With me today is John Miniotis. He is the CEO of AbraSilver Resources. And there's a lot to talk about with this company. Silver, of course, is broken out above $26. And of course, as you know, John, everybody then says, let me pull up a list of silver stocks and see which one I want to buy. So, maybe today in this interview, you can make the case why people should be buying AbraSilver. But just to get right into it, John, for those people who are not familiar with the company, maybe you can start off by, first of all, giving your trading symbol in the
Sure.
US and Canada. And then in addition to that, give us a background on your Diablillos project in Argentina.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jordan. Really welcome the opportunity here. AbraSilver, we're traded on the TSX Venture in Canada. ABRA is the ticker symbol there. And on the OTCQX in the US. And that ticker symbol is ABBRF. AbraSilver is the name of the company. The key project is called Diablillos. This is an advanced stage silver and gold project in the Salta province of Argentina, a very mining-friendly province. We have a very high growth project. We've actually doubled the size of the resource here over the last 4 years. And we recently announced a very robust economic study. That was a pre-feasibility study based only on the proven and probable reserves, which total over 200 million ounces on a silver equivalent basis. So it's a large, robust project, primary silver. Also has quite a bit of gold as well. So 100% precious metal focused. This is a project that's open pittable, in oxides, close to surface. Excellent economics. And we can talk more about that. But just to give you a sense, at even just under current silver and gold prices, this project would have a net present value at just over $1 billion Canadian. So that's about $1.80 Canadian per share. We're currently trading at 40 cents, and that's after a sizable re-rate over the past couple of weeks. And so even following this, starting to move higher here, even following the early uptrend, we're still trading at 0.2 times NAV of only the reserves. Now, on top of the reserves, we have at least 40 million ounces of additional silver here in resources. And we have tons of exploration upside potential as well. So it just goes to show you how undervalued we are, how undervalued the sector still is. I think this is certainly a great entry point here, as sentiment is certainly starting to become much more optimistic, I'd say.
Yeah, so you mentioned the reserves. Just a quick follow-up. Your measured and indicated resource. Can you tell us what that's up to now?
Yeah, so that's over 250 million ounces on a silver equivalent basis. So in terms of silver, we have 150 million ounces of just silver, and then we have 1.4 million ounces of gold. And importantly, this is all in oxides. And so again, it's close to surface, open pittable, bulk mineable, especially the grade profile is extremely attractive. In the first 5 years, we'd be producing with average grades over 200 grams per ton on a silver basis. So your first 5 years, you're producing 18 million ounces of silver once this project is in production. So this would certainly be one of the largest primary silver projects out there. I believe, according to the Silver Institute, this would be sort of in the top 6 or so on a global basis. So 18 million ounces a year of silver equivalent certainly ranks this as world-class, large-scale project with very robust cash costs. So we have an excellent foundation here. But really, the key highlight is that there's a lot of exploration potential still ahead of us. And so I think that's really what's most exciting to myself and to many of our shareholders.
Yes, but before we get to the exploration potential, maybe just one or two quick things on the pre-feasibility study. So you mentioned at today's metals prices, and we're speaking on April 10th, 2024, just so everyone knows who's watching the video in case they're viewing this, a week or two later. Okay, so $1 billion Canadian NPV. So that comes
Yes.
out to what, like 730 or 740 million US?
740, exactly. 740 million US, yeah.
Okay, and let's go into the PFS a bit more. So you mentioned, you have that high grade the first 5 years. What's the AISC over the first 5 years versus the duration of the mine life?
Sure. So in the first 5 years, your all-in sustaining costs are just under $10 an ounce of silver. So certainly the lowest quartile, the best quartile of the cash cost curve. Over the life of mine, it remains under $12.50 an ounce over the entire 13, 14-year mine life there. So this is a project that, yeah, again, because of the high-grade nature, because it's bulk mineable, close to surface in oxides, with good grades, you get very, very robust margins. So current silver price close to $27, $28. Obviously, in the first 5 years, if you're producing with all-in sustaining costs of $10 an ounce, you're generating free cash flow of over $155 million, or at today's price is north of $200 million US every year over the first 5 years. And that's why you get a very quick payback. The capital cost here is about $375 million US. So in about 2 years at current commodity prices, you'd have your payback, and then you have 13, 14-year mine life to make significant rate of return on your upfront capex.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about the upside. I mean, I know that the Jack discovery has really been the key here, and that you do have some upside at Jack North as well as other places. Maybe you can speak to what Jack North and some of these other targets could potentially add to the project.
Sure. And so just to give some more background, so Diablillos is the name of the entire project. Up until really 18 months ago, all of the focus was just on one single deposit. So that's called the Oculto deposit. That's the main deposit, but by far the largest deposit that we have identified so far. And so Oculto is a nice sizable deposit, but we found an extension to that. So just to the southwest of that main Oculto is where we found this very high grade Jack zone. And so that has about 5 million tons in resources and grades north of 200 grams per ton on a silver basis, plus a little bit of gold on top of that. So, I think it's a nice sizable, it represents, around about 10% of the tonnage, but in terms of the silver, because it's so much higher grade, represents, close to a third, 33, 35% of the overall contained silver content is just within that smaller high-grade deposit. And so we're looking to replicate that success. And we think with the geophysics that we ran, there's various other deposits here that we have yet to drill in detail. There's one big one called Phantasma. We expect to be drilling that later this year. And then an extension of Jack as you go out towards the northwest there. It's still open in various directions. We have other satellite deposits called Jack North, Alpaca, etc. And so there's room to continue to improve here, find more ounces, but importantly, we're specifically targeting higher grade mineralization. So looking to identify another 5 million tons would be great. Obviously more than that would be even better. And so that would add, each year we'd be processing about 3 million tons based on a 9,000 ton per day throughput rate. So if you find another 6 million tons, that could fully feed the plant for an additional 2 years. And as I mentioned, each year represents, at those grades, about $200 million US in free cash flow. So finding more high-grade ounces could add a lot of value to the economics here. And the good thing is it's cheap drilling, it's shallow, you drill 200-meter holes, and then you move on to the next one. And so, yeah, you can define these deposits fairly cheaply, fairly easily. That's what our team's done in the past, and that's what we think we'll be able to do later this year.
Yeah, so you mentioned 3 million tons of high grade. That would add 1 year. So you're hoping to get to 6 million tons. How many tons is Jack right now? And then what's the potential for just Jack North by itself?
Yeah, so Jack is just over 5 million tons. And so, but it's spread out over many years because you're processing that in addition to processing at Oculto. So you're not only feeding the plant the material from Jack. And so, yeah, if you were to only feed it through Jack, it would have about a 2-year mine life. But we spread it out over sort of 4 years because you're getting mineralization from the main ore body as well. So similarly, at these other deposits, again, if you find 5 million tons, you can process that over 4 years and really just help augment the grade. And so, yeah, again, with Phantasma, Jack North, Alpaca, the target is to get another 5 million, 6 million tons here of high grade mineralization. And we think that that could be accomplished with another 22,000 meter drill campaign, which is what we're targeting for later this year.
As to get even more specific, where do you think the if you find another 5 or 6 million tons, like could most of it come from Jack North, or you think it's going to be a little bit spread out everywhere? I mean, take me a bit deeper. I know that these are just expectations, and you actually have to drill it and see what's there. But what are you thinking? I mean, more specifically, as far as where you could add the high grade.
Yeah. So when we ran geophysics on the property a year and a half ago now, there was these big purple anomalies which are shown in our corporate presentation. Jack was by far the biggest. And so Jack, it seems to be the biggest single deposit that's essentially connected to Oculto that has this high grade silver mineralization. But when you look, I mean, you can see there's another project or deposit here, a satellite deposit called Phantasma. And that's open for 1 kilometer along strike. So along strike, it's a similar almost extent to Jack there. So Phantasma, just ballpark, could be another 3 to 4 million tons of very high grade mineralization. And then Jack itself sort of extends out towards the northwest and also towards the southeast. There's sort of a cross-cutting structure there. And that's open again. I mean, we don't know the boundaries because obviously you have to test it. So we've drilled a couple holes. All of those have hit silver mineralization. It's hard to say how big could this be, but yeah, overall, if we can identify another 6 million tons or so of high grade mineralization, again, that could add, hundreds of millions of dollars here to the overall net present value of this project. And so that would be a phenomenal rate of return on our exploration.
Yeah, that'd be really exciting. I mean, 5 years of high grade. If you extend that to 7 years to start the mine, I mean, that's, we're not talking about just a couple of years. That's really, really significant.
Absolutely. And then these are just immediate sort of satellite deposits, which essentially connect to either Jack or to Oculto. Now, outside of that, I mean, we have a large land package. So we have 8,000 hectares. So it's a large, mostly unexplored land package. And within that, there are other targets as well. Now, these, I mean, obviously need to be drill tested to see if the silver mineralization extends there. I know Dave O'Connor, who's our chief geologist, he's very bullish on this other target to the north of Oculto. I think it's located a couple kilometers to the north. It's called Jasperoid. This is another magnetic anomaly, follows sort of similar structures to what we've seen at Oculto at Jack. If obviously we're going to be testing that as well. But yeah, if there's mineralization there that's high grade, that could be a game changer. I mean, that's now an entirely new deposit and, significant upside. And so we think with just drilling the Phantasma, Jack North, where we've already drilled, we've already encountered silver, we think it's high probability that we'd be able to grow the resource there. Our goal is to focus there and then get up to a resource of over 300 million ounces on a silver equivalent basis in the measured and indicated category. But then beyond that, if some of these other, like the Jasperoid target, and there are other targets as well along the property, if we start hitting mineralization there, that completely, it's a game changer. That changes the overall dynamics of this project altogether. And now we have multiple projects on our property. So a lot of exploration upside for sure.
Yeah, I mean, if that happens, he'll be talking to people more important than me. Safe to say. But okay, I have like 2 or 3 follow-ups to that. So, are you going to? You mentioned a 20,000 meter drill program coming up. Are you going to stick a few holes in Jasperoid? What's the plan there?
Yes. Yeah, without question. And so that 20,000 meters is, largely focused on the existing low-hanging fruit that I call it. So Phantasma, Alpaca, those targets. So drilling those out, defining a resource. We'll certainly be testing Jasperoid and other targets with a couple holes. You drill a couple holes, you wait for the assays, And then, of course, if you find mineralization there, then it kind of changes everything. Maybe you add a couple more rigs. I mean, now you're drilling for something much larger. So you can always upsize the drill campaign. And so, yeah, drilling a couple holes at Jasperoid and some of these other targets would for sure be included as part of the sort of next phase of exploration. We expect to start that shortly. I mean, likely sometime in May. Final decision hasn't been made on the exact timing. But yeah, we'll be, just as a general ballpark, I mean, it's not going to be 6 months from now. It's going to be several weeks from now. And so we'll be releasing those details as final decisions are made. But yeah, the team at site's ramping up and looking very keen to start drilling again here.
Oh, that's fantastic. I just one more follow-up on Jack North and Phantasma. I know that Jack North, you've had like a handful of holes in there. The results are really good. What about Phantasma? Maybe my mind escapes me. Have you put any holes in there yet?
Yeah, so Phantasma was actually part of there was a historical resource on that. So if you look at our November press release, there was a small resource on Phantasma. That was from drilling done by the previous operators back in the day, and that was before geophysics. So we feel that they've missed the actual high-grade structure there at Phantasma, but they had drilled, a dozen or so holes and identified a couple million tons already, but lower grade. I think it was maybe about 100 grams per ton of silver. So still highly economic. I mean, significantly above cutoff grade, but lower grade compared to Jack and certainly the higher grade areas in Oculto. So we're going to be essentially drilling between Phantasma all the way to Oculto. So there's a kilometer of open strike extent there that has not really been tested. We'll be drilling that and looking to define resources there. And we have high confidence there's significant silver potential in that area.
Yeah, and tell me about David O'Connor, your geologist, because I know that Rick Rule has spoken really highly of him. A lot of us investors, maybe we don't go that deep into the biographies and especially the exploration guy. Give us some color on him.
Yeah. So Dave's a very, very seasoned veteran here. So he's been in the mining industry 40, 50 plus years, I'd say. He's visited mines all over the world, literally. I mean, he's been on every continent pretty much. And so, yeah, he's been in South America now. So we took him out of retirement. So I was running another company with Dave called Aethon Minerals. We took Dave out of retirement, moved him down to Chile at that time. So he was focused in South America, looking for assets. We came across Diablillos. This would have been back in, I guess, 2018. And then we announced a deal in 2019 where we merged the two companies together. And that's when Dave moved down to Salta. And so he's been living in Salta ever since and actively managing the very successful team we have there. So Dave and at site, Gonzalo Montebelli and other geologists have done a phenomenal job for us. But yeah, Dave's track record, I mean, going back in Australia a couple decades ago, I mean, he was, one of the main geos responsible for the discovery of Olympic Dam, which is literally one of the largest copper uranium deposits in the world. He's had a number of other successful ventures over the years, discovered a number of properties. So he's had a very, very successful career. And now he's, very, very excited, obviously at Diablillos. He has an excellent team between him and everyone working under him at site. So we're thrilled to have them.
John, one question about the financing. I'm sure you're getting, every interview, everyone you talk to, they're probably asking, when's the finance and when are you going to raise money? But, you have a great project. The silver market's hot. I know you're going to be able to raise. I'm not worried about that. But for the listeners out there, maybe just a couple sentences on the financing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd say there, I mean, again, as always, we're thinking outside the box. We're trying to minimize dilution here, but obviously looking at various opportunities. And so I think given the level of interest now for high quality silver projects, which are highly scarce, and also the improving dynamics in Argentina, we're in the fortunate position. We have lots of different opportunities that we're evaluating. So several discussions going on right now. And, we think some of those could be done at very, very favorable terms. So yeah, in discussions right now, again, we're going to be continue to be very cognizant of diluting at current levels. And so looking to be creative, think outside the box, not only attract money, but also attract strategic investors that could help us as we move this project forward beyond exploration into the next stage as well. So there's some ongoing dialogue there, but we're very, very excited.
So is the plan of action for the next 2 years more exploration this year than a feasibility study in 25?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So the bankable feasibility study we expect will be towards the latter half of 2025. In the interim, it might make sense to optimize sort of the existing pre-feasibility study. There was a large amount of material that was just treated as waste, that was slightly below cutoff grade there, and we think that could be heap leachable. So we could be redoing the pre-feasibility study maybe later this year, sometime in the fall, incorporating that into a heap leach, and so you have a dual sort of parallel processing where you have the existing plant and some of the lower grade material that was just deemed as waste for this study could be brought in and help add a lot more gold. So we think with that material, there could be 200,000 to 300,000 ounces or so of additional gold over the life of mine, which would increase the gold production here by 20 to 30% almost. So lots of potential, lots of additional upside. So there could be some interim studies here done, but the goal is to drill out this phase 4, identify these other satellite deposits, and then incorporate that larger resource into the final sort of feasibility study, which would be end of next year.
And so that I'm just guessing that bringing that gold, I mean, it's just, we're doing a study here, but bringing that into a new PFS, that makes sense given the market that we're in, where you get into a bull market, then size matters, and so that can add value. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. And so, yeah, the pre-feas already has robust rate of return and, already has a great production profile, et cetera. But certainly, I mean, if we had more time, we would have incorporated that material, which, I mean, there's 45 million tons of this material. So it would double the existing tonnage of the overall project here. And so there's a lot of this material that we just treated as waste. But we think because it contains 0.2, 0.3 grams per ton of gold, I think that could be recovered via heap leach and could add significant amount of gold content here. So, if those studies pan out, it obviously makes sense then to optimize sort of the pre-feas and publish that again. But certainly the biggest value driver is ongoing exploration, getting the permits. We expect to be applying for the EIA permits or submitting those later this quarter in Q2 of this year, so before the end of June, and then getting the permits in place by the end of 2025. So we're moving things along in parallel here. As you're drilling, you're permitting the existing resource. So, by the end of 2025 or certainly early 2026, you can make a construction decision here. And this is a project that will clearly become a producing mine.
John, the company certainly seems underpriced to me. I guess a two-part question. Why do you think the stock is underpriced? And then secondly, what do you have to do? I mean, you mentioned 0.2 times NAV. What do you have to do to raise the valuation, get the value that you deserve?
Yeah. So I'd say, look, obviously the sentiment in the industry has been pretty horrible over the last couple of years. Thankfully, that's starting to turn. It's as if somebody turned on a light switch a couple of weeks ago, and people are finally saying, "Oh my God, look at this!" And there's a whole bunch of high quality juniors out there trading at 0.2, 0.3 times net. And so we're starting to see the share price turn around, which is nice. The overall sentiment has been quite bearish, of course. But now that that's turning, we're starting to get some recognition. But we feel, look, as we get more aggressive again, if you're drilling, announcing ongoing positive results in a rising tide, we saw what happened back in 2020. So when we took over the company, this was a project or a company that had a $10 million market cap. Myself, Dave O'Connor, took over, started drilling, started hitting high-grade results on a very consistent basis. And it went from a 10 million market cap. Our peak market cap was 300 million Canadian. And that was in middle of 2021. So within a 12 to 18 month period, went from 10 million to 300 million, 30x return. Now we're back to 225 million. So still not back at the peak, but we've literally doubled the size of this project since that time. And so we've still had ongoing success, but the market has not been rewarding that. And so as that changes, the market's going to have to realize, look, this already has $1 billion of NPV based on the reserves. As you're hitting high-grade results and as you're de-risking the project and getting permits and moving things along, I think the share price re-rate will be inevitable and will come at the right market conditions.
And just one more quick follow-up. I should have asked this earlier, but so you're at about 260 million ounces silver equivalent measured and indicated. Your goal is to get to 300. Is there, I mean, getting to 300, is there any, I mean, do analysts give you a higher rating by itself because you're at 300? I mean, is there, I know it sounds a lot better than 260 and it's bigger, obviously, but I guess, do you get any extra value because you hit that threshold?
No. So it's not necessarily the size. I mean, the size that we have already is, this is already over 250 million ounces of silver. So this already has a scale. And so if we thought that there wasn't additional satellite high-grade deposits, there'd be no need to do additional drilling. I mean, you could just go straight to now bankable feasibility study, get this into production. And so you don't need to. There's no magic between going from 250 to 300 million. Unless you're finding additional high-grade satellite deposits, just like we did at Jack. I mean, before Jack, we were at, I think, 210 million. And we went from 210 or 215 to 250 million. But that improved the net present value by well over $100 million, 150, $200 million. So Jack added significant value. And so finding the low-hanging fruit, which is this high-grade satellite deposit sitting near surface, I mean, it's a no-brainer to drill those out, define those, bring those into the bankable feasibility study, and you'll get value. But yeah, specifically targeting higher grade material, not just targeting adding more ounces. Right. I mean, it's a 15-year mine life. If you're adding ounces at the back end of the mine life, it probably provides zero value. So we're targeting higher grade. And again, because it's close to surface, very, very high return on your exploration dollars.
Okay, John, as we close here, can you please tell the listeners and viewers if they'd like to get more info on AbraSilver, where they can go?
Yeah, no, please feel free to reach out. Of course, our website, AbraSilver.com, has a lot of information. And then also info@AbraSilver.com is the corporate inbox. You email that and I'll respond. And yeah, happy also to come back on your show. Give you updates as we continue to make progress. So happy for them to contact you and then, hear more about the story as we continue to make progress here.
John, thank you so much for coming on and updating me and my audience. Really appreciate it. It's a really exciting story now that it looks like we could be in a new silver bull market. Fingers crossed. Yeah, thank you for coming on. Thanks. And look forward to getting another update maybe later this year, see how the drilling is going.
Absolutely. Thanks very much, Jordan. It's a pleasure to be on.